that were made to the tax code years ago, if you lose money in a partnership looking for oil and gas, you can't write those losses against income that you have on dividends. You can't write it off against your wages. Well, why not? That inhibits investment. What we need is for government to make it easier for people to write off their losses against their income, and we need lower taxes. We need to make sure that when you spend money, when you make a capital investment, you don't have to depreciate over time. You write it off in the year you make the investment. Because it's expensive, you spend the money. We need the government to get out of the way. We don't want the government to try to pick the winners and losers and give a subsidy to one industry and a tax to the other. We want the government out. We want the government neutral so the market can make these decisions. And the market will do it right. Because if somebody is doing it wrong, they'll lose money and go out of business. And if someone is doing it right, they'll make a profit and reinvest those profits and expand their business. When government does something, there is no guiding hand. There is no P&L. The more money the government loses, the more they expand the program. They just raise taxes. They can never fail. So we have to leave it to the market, not to government. As far as Iraq, the most important thing that the federal government can do is defend this country. I mean, that's why we have a federal government. That's why they can tax.
Not Iraq, Iran.
Or Iran. Well, either. Well, it's foreign policy is what you're asking about, right?
No, I'm asking about Iran and the development of nuclear weapons.
Well, I don't know for sure whether they've developed nuclear weapons or not. I know there are rumors that maybe they're doing it. I don't know how much intelligence we have. But I would say this, I would be very bothered if we had concrete evidence that Iran was developing nuclear weapons, and I think we should take action to make sure that doesn't happen. We should first take action through diplomacy, through economic means, but if necessary, through military means. But the military means should be focused on that particular threat. What I want the government of this country to do is defend Americans. I don't want the country embarking on, grandiose nation building around the world. I don't want to have a gigantic military with, bases in 160 countries. I mean, most of this is just pork. It's just the military's own equivalent of pork. I think I'm an expert on economics. And I know that everything the government has done when it comes to economics has been wrong. I don't think that they're completely wrong on economics and geniuses when it comes to national defense and intelligence. So I think there's a lot of room to cut in the military, but I want to focus on defending our borders and defending this country and not getting involved as much as we do in affairs of other nations. I'd rather be neutral. But if we see a real legitimate threat to our country, then let's protect Americans from that threat. But that's it. Let's not, go into countries and stay there for, 10 years or indefinitely and keep building up our troop presence with no real plan, no plan of victory, no idea what we're doing, just spending money and potentially creating more enemies and creating more problems than the ones that we saw. Yes.
Your predecessor gave the impression she wants to go to Washington and have more stability because that is not there for the Democrats present. So she feels the approach is to go and get along with
not me.
You guys.
I want to go. I want to hold these guys accountable. They just had hearings in Washington to try to figure out why there was a financial crisis. Now, I called them. I sent letters. I wanted to testify. After all, I'm the guy that predicted it. Why not ask me why there was a financial crisis? The reason they didn't want me there is they don't want the truth. But they don't want somebody sitting there pointing the finger directly at Congress and say, you're the reason why, and here it is. And blaming the Federal Reserve and blaming our elected leaders. So I want to go to Washington and hold them accountable for the mess this country is in and see if they're up to the challenge of making amends and doing what's right for a change and not take a poll and not worry if doing the right thing means that they don't get reelected. Because you know what? It's not that bad in the private sector. It's not that bad to have to work for a living. So it wouldn't be that bad if some of our elected officials had to give it a try.
I'm really impressed with what you're saying. I've never seen or heard of you before. But I want to know what your viability is within the state of Connecticut's party structure.
No, I think I'm viable.
You're going to have a hard time.
Why?
Because you're not part of the party apparatus.
Well, who says I have to be part of the party apparatus? I mean, what good has it been? How many people have we elected that were part of the party apparatus that have let us down?
But do you know how to get the nomination?
Yeah, just get the support, get the votes.
You have to have the support of the town committees and of the structure. And if you don't have that, you can't get the nomination.
Well, let's hope I can get the support, but if I can't, I can always get it from the voters, right? We can have a primary. If,
It's tough.
well, you know what?
We're running a time.
I never thought it was going to be easy, but I think the country's worth fighting for. And I think that it's important that I win. You know, it's not as, you know, look, I'm going to be fine, right? I mean, I own gold. My money's in, I have my money abroad. I'm not going to get wiped out in this financial crisis. But most Americans will. And, you know, I think it's, this could be a great country. It was a great country. We were founded on great principles. I don't want to see that collapse. You know, I don't like the fact that I have to tell my clients that if you want to have a good return, you got to send your money abroad. Why can't we invest it here? Why can't I go to Washington and change the policies that are so destructive to our economy, that are chasing capital out of the country, that are undermining the productivity and the competitiveness of our businesses? We can change that. And I think it's an important message. And don't, underestimate the Republican Party in Connecticut. I think they can see that I'm genuine, that I'm committed to doing the right things. And I'm sure there's a lot of frustrated Republicans, just like me, that are tired of holding their nose and voting for the lesser of two evils. And finding a Republican is no different from the Democrat.
What I want to say is, you've got to stimulate the voters to come out and support you over the party apparatus.
I'm trying. Well, can I get you to support me?
Maybe.
Well, that's one. All right, I'm on my way.
What are your views on immigration?
All right. I'm very much against illegal immigration, and I'm against amnesty for people who have immigrated illegally. But I am very much pro-legal immigration, and I want to make it easier for people to come into this country. All four of my grandparents were immigrants. When my grandfather came here, and actually he settled in Connecticut, he worked on building, he was a carpenter, and he worked on the Yale Bowl, and he lived in New Haven. But when my grandfather came here and got off that boat, there was no welfare workers to meet him. He didn't have any government handouts. It was hard work. And that's what I want. I want immigrants to come and bring their hard work, bring their culture, bring their dedication, bring their entrepreneurship to this country to help us. Because we need all the workers we can get. We need all the productivity we can get. But what we don't need is people coming to the country going on government handouts, going on the dole, going on welfare, going on food stamps, Medicaid. So that's what's got to stop. We need to bring people into this country and let them work. And I hear people say, well, they're coming in here and taking our jobs. They're not taking our jobs. Immigrants don't take jobs. There will be an unlimited amount of jobs if the government gets out of the way and lets businesses create them. The more people that are here, the more opportunities we have. The more workers we have, the more opportunity entrepreneurs have to create businesses to employ them. And all that will happen. When we had wave after wave after wave of immigrants coming to this country in 1870, 1880, 1890, 1900, they all got jobs. And we had the greatest economic boom in U.S. history. That 19th century was more prosperous than the 20th century. We had more economic growth because we had freer economy. We had less government and we had sound money. And if we go back to those principles, we can absorb all these immigrants. But we need them coming in here legally. We need them respecting our laws. Because if they come in here illegally, they're never going to respect the laws. And if we just make it so they can go on government programs, they're never going to contribute to the economy. In the back, in the red shirt.
How are you going to deal with China and its subsidies of different industries? One I was reading about today, the glass industry, which has collapsed here, loss of manufacturing jobs, and the fact that China, and steel also, yes, and the fact that China does not let its currency revalue.
Yes. What most people on Washington don't understand is in the short run, that subsidy is the only thing that's standing between us and economic collapse. China right now is our biggest benefactor in that if it weren't for China, interest rates would be much higher right now and consumer prices would be much higher. They are delivering a gigantic subsidy to the American economy. Now that said, I wish it would stop because they're acting as an enabler. They're like the drug pusher, keeping our phony economy